That Don't Sound Right is a podcast about talking the way we did before the internet, when you could not prove anyone right or wrong.
All the expertise was contained in the people involved with the conversation. I'm Peter.
I'm Cecil, and I hope you enjoy our conversations. And as you listen, if you find yourself silently saying, that don't sound right, send us a comment. You're one of us. Number one, and had someone listening to the podcast with him.
Was this under duress? Was it under,
I don't know. That's a good question.
Okay, all right.
Whether it was coerced into it or not.
Hey, Cecil, how's it going?
Hey, Peter. Welcome back to That Don't Sound Right.
Hey, it's good to be back. It's good to be back with our That Don't Sound Right community. Hope everyone is enjoying their summer. Here we are in June, halfway through June already. Can you believe it?
It's hard to believe. This year is going by really fast.
Yeah, it really does. It really does seem like that. Hey, so I understand that during some travels of listener number one,
Yes.
our podcast got mentioned and even recognized through some other folks. What's going on?
So evidently, they were listening to the podcast.
Now who's listening?
So
I want names. Well, maybe they don't want. Maybe they don't want our name on there. That's fine.
Listener number one, and had someone listening to the podcast with him.
Was this under duress? Was it under
I don't know. That's a good question.
Okay, all right.
Whether it was coerced into it or not. But they came up with a topic for That Don't Sound Right.
For us?
Yes.
Very kind of them.
There was.
Well, we've had people recommend that they send in topics, and
Yes.
we've even suggested it. So, what do they got?
So they said that they saw trees being pruned by a helicopter.
Okay, who's they? This
So
is listener number one, or
no? This was the person that listener number one had listening to the podcast.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So this person listens to our podcast and says,
Listen to a podcast.
podcast.
I don't
Okay.
know if he listened to more
That
than one.
was definitely a stretch.
Yeah.
So he listened to our podcast and he thought to himself, well, I've seen this. Maybe those guys know something.
Right.
Right?
Right.
And what was the topic again?
Pruning trees using a helicopter.
With a helicopter. Pruning trees.
Pruning trees. Now, now I've seen.
I've got a lot of images about a helicopter chopping trees, but I don't think what they're going for.
Right. So the only my understanding is they hang a blade, a big whirring blade, beneath the helicopter, and then drag it through the treetops.
Whirring. So are they topping trees, you think?
I don't know. That's a good question.
So this is what I've seen pictures of.
Okay, so you've seen this.
I've seen pictures of this. I haven't seen it in person.
I have never seen it or heard of it.
But these large, high-power power lines that go through the woods.
Yes.
And these are the ones that go up and over mountains for miles and miles. So there's this long, wide, or very wide right-of-way to give room so the trees don't fall onto these high-tension cables.
Right.
So there's a lot of space. Now, what I've seen these guys do is with the aid of a helicopter, they've got basically this gigantic hedge trimmer. I mean, it's got its own motor on there. It's hanging down from the helicopter.
Not like a whirring blade, but like
not a whirring blade, nor like a hedge trimmer where you have
a straight line.
You have lots of blades that are just zigzagging back and forth.
Okay.
In a long line.
Right.
And what they're doing is they're going along the tree line, and they're cutting off the limbs off the sides of the trees to make sure that at no point those limbs are going to grow into the right-of-way or could fall onto the right-of-way or fall onto the high-power lines.
So the blades are moving vertically, not horizontally.
That's right. They're vertically.
I could see that. Mm-hmm. I have never seen it, but I could see that.
I'm trying to think how big it is. I mean, this
sounds terribly dangerous.
It sounds terrifying to be around. I mean, you've got this gasoline motor.
Yes.
50 feet in the air.
Right.
Driving, I don't know how many dozen blades,
yeah.
which are essentially scissors going back and forth. They're oscillating back and forth.
Right.
Coming across branches that could be 6, 8 inches in diameter.
Yeah.
Hitting that thing and then just the trees go, the limbs go flying.
And it's hanging from a big whirring blade.
And it's hanging from a big whirring blade.
Two big whirring blades in some cases.
So
you
you're
got the
sitting,
prop too.
I don't remember how big the helicopter was that had this thing, but it had to have been a very heavy lift helicopter that had two propellers.
Now, how do you protect the people on the ground? I mean, how do you somebody just not stumbling through the woods?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, if you're going across the Appalachian Trail and you come across a guy who left his beautiful fiance behind,
right,
then you might just go ahead and keep going.
Yeah.
But you have no idea someone is going to be down there.
Right. Unless I guess you could hear something crashing through like that.
Well, you're probably going to run, although they probably are doing this in very remote areas.
Yeah.
I mean, very remote areas.
I've walked out onto a lot of power lines. That would be a terrifying sight to see.
Coming at you.
Blades coming through the woods like that. I'd never heard of that. So I think he tried to get a picture of it. I'm not sure that he got a picture of it. But this was actually near a populated area, though, because he saw it.
So he saw it in person?
He saw it in person while he was on campus at the college.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so it was pretty close. So now I've seen...
Maybe they were topping it. I mean, I guess it's possible to have a spinning blade.
That just sounds... That sounds so bad.
It doesn't sound stable, right? Because the thing's just swinging on a pendulum.
Right. Now, I've seen the blades that they use, like on the ground, where they use the big blades. It's like just turning the lawnmower on its side, and they got the big blade, and they're just going through the tree line.
Yes, imagine that being hung from a helicopter. That's
what I'm saying. That's what I'm imagining. It's terrifying.
But this thing of a whirring spinning blade around populated area...
That's why you should just...
that don't sound right.
That don't sound right at all. Pruning is obviously a big thing. I mean, we've seen some terrible pruning here in Winston-Salem where they've pruned around trees to protect power lines, especially like if you're going up on Miller, where they just whacked them.
They do.
Yeah, it's just,
I'm surprised the tree lives.
I am
that
too.
Much asymmetric pruning that the tree that doesn't die or B just flop over because all the weight of the limbs are just all on one side.
Way. So there was a terrible pruning thing that happened in North Carolina a few years ago.
Okay.
When it was so have you ever heard of the mother vine?
The mother vine?
Vine.
No.
V-I-N-E. Vine. Mother vine. So the mother vine is down at the coast somewhere. I don't know exactly where it is. Near the Outer Banks but it is a very, very old muscadine vine that they think was here at the time of when the Lost Colony was here.
All right.
Very old muscadine vine.
All right.
It's huge. Well, it had the power company was coming through, didn't realize what it was, sprayed it.
Oh no!
And so the tree docs from NC State had to run down there and try to stop the poison
from
killing the whole vine.
Oh my gracious! Yeah. Did they succeed?
They did. They saved it. They saved it.
Wow!
But wouldn't it be terrible? Have to call your foreman and say, by the way,
hey, I was doing some Roundup.
Yeah.
Sprayed mother vine.
500-year-old vine, 400 or 500-year-old vine.
That's right.
That we killed. But now there's cuttings of the mother vine that you can buy.
No kidding.
Yeah, you can buy them. And there's actually mother vine 1 at Duplin now, where they have transplanted some of the mother vine.
Right.
Yeah. So
have you tried it?
I have not. I've heard about it, but I've never tried it.
We might have to have a tasting.
Yeah. Mother vine that almost died.
We could take, maybe we need to take a field trip with these fantastic microphones and
go down to Duplin County.
Go Duplin and have a on-site.
You can't miss it because there's a billboard every 15 feet all the way to the line as you go down 70. Yeah, so that, you wouldn't think that pruning, especially big pruning, would be such a big deal, but you can get messed up quick.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen these tree cutters. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it's a special, think of an excavator, but instead of having a bucket, it's got a claw that sits sideways. Mm-hmm. And on top of it is a chainsaw. Mm-hmm. And what happens is they can grab the tree.
I've seen this.
They can grab the tree. The chainsaw cuts underneath the claw.
Yep.
Chops it off. And then they can lift up the whole tree.
Yep.
Move it over, sit on its side gently,
yep.
and then they can process it.
Yeah, I've seen that.
That is just an amazing thing. And they also have, they have the same kind of thing they can put on a boom.
Mm.
So they can reach, 75 feet up in the air
Right.
and basically
Top a tree
off safely.
Right.
As opposed to climbing up the tree with a rope and
Yep.
stringing up strings and tying it up and cutting it and letting it controlled. That's how my backyard was done.
Yeah,
with
that's how
strings.
my neighbor's backyards, they did it with rope. They climbed them.
Yeah, right.
That's dangerous. You have to know what you're doing.
You really do.
Yeah.
Really. Especially if you have things underneath you don't want smashed.
Right. Yeah. Well, cutting a tree in general, we cut a lot of trees here in this yard, and we cut 2 pines, and I did 2 with the help of my father-in-law, and they were right at the back of the house.
Mm-hmm.
And we had to use wedges and stuff to get them to fall in the right direction.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
You went through that trouble.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, they were close to the house.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I've seen my dad fell them close to houses. I mean, it's they would tie a rope to a tree, put some pressure on it with the truck, and then cut to kind of get it to fall the right way.
Did that work?
It did, but again, it's dicey.
Yeah. There's no shortage of YouTube videos of tree
right.
felling going wrong.
Oh, right, because you might miss the house but hit the truck.
Right.
There's a lot going on there. But usually, they put the one time I remember it specifically, they had the truck at a pretty rakish angle, so that there was pressure on the tree, but the tree wasn't going to fall in the direction of the.
Right.
But I'm not sure that that's all. It's dangerous stuff, all that stuff.
Yeah. So I wonder where this was that he saw the helicopter trimming a tree.
I know where it was, but I don't want to disclose the location because I didn't get pre-approval.
I got you. Okay. Was it local?
It was local, yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yes.
All right.
It makes me want to see it now.
Yeah. I wonder what they were pruning for
But it also just makes me wonder, our neighborhood has a ton of trees.
Yeah.
Why don't they just go back and bury all this stuff?
Oh, because it costs money.
You think it costs more than maintaining cutting the trees?
Now, once they got it, how often do they really cut the trees though?
Yeah.
I mean, they don't cut the trees that often. I've always wondered the same thing.
Right.
Now, in newer communities, they do bury those lines.
Right. But even with all the stuff they have to do there in the winter here where they're repairing lines, I wonder if it wouldn't just be cheaper to bury them all.
Man, you think about all the stuff that's already buried.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got gas lines, you've got water lines, you've got sewer lines. You got to avoid all that. So you got cable lines.
Well, last year during that big storm, and the guy said that it happened perfectly for it not, or it would have been bad. There was something hit a line here in the neighborhood. When it fell, whatever fell, ruptured the gas line as the electrical line fell and ignited the gas line. Like at the same time. He said that had it not ignited when it hit, it would have exploded.
It would have built up.
Yeah,
built up, and then.
But fortunately, it just turned into like a big pilot light. Yeah, there was a fire right across from our house.
On this street here?
On this street, yeah, right at the end of the driveway.
That's way too exciting, Caesar.
Yeah, and so he said he'd never seen that happen before. So the power line, which was above ground, ignited an underground gas line because whatever broke the line ruptured the gas line.
Yeah. Well, so you can imagine the complication and trying to bury a line. Yeah, I think it's more trouble than it's worth once everything is established. In a new community, they're burying them all the time, and in these older communities, it's just probably not.
There's no telling, like you said, there's no telling what's down there.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right.
So, well, I think we've probably gotten everything out of pruning that we can get out of, except for we hadn't done the words of wisdom.
Oh, is that right?
Which is since we were talking about helicopters.
That's right. Okay. Yes. The rules of flight.
The rules of flight that I've always heard are don't run out of airspeed, altitude, and ideas at the same time.
Right.
You always need to have 2 or 3.
You need to have 2 or 3, and the 2. So tell me the 3 are.
So the three things you always have to have are altitude, airspeed, or an idea.
Okay. You've run out of one of those. Right. More than one of those.
You got to have an altitude idea,
bad things are gonna happen.
Airspeed or an idea, or airspeed and altitude. But you can't run out of all 3 at the same time. Which you said there was also the engineers.
Yeah, there's an engineer's, kind of the same kind of the engineer's dilemma. is, usually an engineer is asked to do something that's cost effective, that's super lightweight, and that is super strong,
Right.
will last forever. And the engineer will really usually come back and say, well, pick two. You
can't have it all.
It's really hard to have all three.
Right. Well, that wraps up yet another episode.
I don't believe it. That don't sound right. We're already done?
I think we're already done. So we've got merchandise still available if you want that. We got some of the shirts in recently. They turned out to be really nice.
Yeah, I saw them. They look really nice. They look really nice.
So that's available in the show notes. You can also get in contact with us through tdsrpodcast@gmail.com.
All right.
And TDSR Podcast on Instagram and Facebook.
Yes. Don't be afraid to shoot us an email. We've got some emails to read back, a fun story about bears.
Oh, right.
Yeah, well, so when we revisit our backpacking and outdoor adventure series, we'll get to this particular email about a bear ransacking a campground.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Not the ransacking, but the story.
No, the story's pretty funny.
Yeah. Well, y'all keep talking.
And stay curious.